My name is Lakia Johnson, and today we are going to discuss how to write a summary of a fiction text. Now, first, before we start writing a summary, we have to understand what a summary is. A summary is a composition of the main ideas and the important details in a text. So, let's ask ourselves, how do you write a good summary? But before we write the summary, let's think about what not to do first. You definitely do not want to rewrite everything that you remember from the text. And you also don't want to write it in a random order. You also don't want to write the bare minimum. So, for example, let's say we're reading a story about Cinderella. As my summary, I don't want to say this story was about a girl who became a princess. That is way too general. It doesn't give any of the main points about the actual story itself. And you also don't want to include too many details. Too many details can take away from the actual idea of a summary, and it also takes away from the reading of the summary. Now, what do you want to include in a good summary? You definitely want to mention the characters, the main characters. You want to include the setting if possible. And you definitely want to include the major events and important details from the plot. Make sure that everything that you write is in chronological order. That's very important. Now, are there any techniques out there that you can use in order to write a good summary? Of course. Summarizing can be very difficult, but with the somebody wanted but so then technique, it can be very simple. This technique breaks down the story and it allows readers to catch all the main points and important details in a story. So, how do we use this technique? Let's find out. The somebody represents the main character in a story. So you want to mention their name. The wanted is what does the character want in the story, or what are they trying to achieve? The but is the problem in the story, or what is keeping the main character from reaching his or her goal. The so is going to be what is the solution to the problem, or how does the main character reach his or her goal. The then is going to be the end of the story. What is the resolution? Now, let's practice. Angie loved to draw. She made colorful designs of people's names with bright hearts and flowers, but she lost her own markers, so she borrowed her teacher's. The school day was ending, but Angie wanted to keep coloring, so she took the teacher's markers home and lost them in her messy room. She came back to the school the next day and wanted to color again, so she asked the teacher for more markers. The teacher replied, "Sure, Angie, but this is my last pack." Angie said she would be careful, but by the end of the day, the markers were scattered all over the floor, and the custodian swept them up and disposed of them. When Angie came in the next day, she asked the teacher for more markers, but she was disappointed to find that there weren't any more. "I don't know where all my markers went," she said, "but I don't have them." Angie had to draw her pictures with a drab pencil. So, who is the somebody in this story? Angie, of course. And what does Angie want, or what is she trying to achieve in the story? Well, we know that Angie wants to keep coloring. What is the problem in the story? Or what is keeping Angie from reaching her goal? Angie keeps borrowing markers from her teacher, and she keeps losing them. Now, what is the solution to this problem? Or how does Angie reach her goal? Angie asks the teacher for more markers, and the teacher gives her the last pack. But Angie loses them anyway. So, how does the story end? What's the resolution? Angie ends up having to draw her pictures with drab pencils instead of using the markers that she loves to use. Now, let's put it together in a summary, a paragraph. Angie wanted to keep drawing, but she keeps borrowing markers from the teachers and losing the markers. So, the teacher gives Angie her last pack of markers, hoping she would not lose them. Then, Angie loses the pack of markers anyway and ends up having to use drab pencils to draw her pictures instead of using the markers that she loves. So, I hope that my tutorial was helpful for you. Thank you so much for practicing with me, and good luck summarizing.